Women, if you are afraid of drinking protein powder out of fear of getting too bulky, please listen to this. I'm going to give you 5 specific reasons why you should not be afraid of protein powder and why it can absolutely serve the goals that you have in and out of the gym. I'm Harris Benjamin. Thank you for listening today. I got a great question recently from a woman, and she said, what do I do if sometimes I'm a little bit scared to drink protein powder because I feel like it might make me bulky? That's a great question. And again, the fear of protein powder, more so the fear of getting too bulky, can apply to a lot of people, but I would say 99% of the time it's women that are saying this to me, more so than men, definitely. And I've put together 5 specific reasons why you should not fear protein powder, right? So let's start off. Okay, so first off, reason number 1. In a very simple way, again, without going into extreme detail, protein powder is not very much different than food in the sense of it's just calories and protein, right? I would definitely rather people eat regular, whole, food from the earth way more than taking supplements, absolutely. But as far as the macronutrients, it's calories and protein, right? So if you have 100 calories from protein powder and 20 grams of protein, for example, and you have that same calories and same protein from regular food, as far as your body composition, it's more or less going to do the same thing. So reason number 1 is that you shouldn't think protein powder is some magic thing that's going to all of a sudden make you bulky because of it being a supplement. No. It's just calories and protein in a more convenient form. It's amazing because it's extremely convenient, and oftentimes it helps people get their protein needs that otherwise wouldn't. But if possible, yes, you want to get your protein from meats and fish and eggs and other protein food sources. But that is reason number 1. Reason number 2, regardless of if you're talking about protein powder or food, you need a surplus of calories in order to gain weight. And if someone is fearing, quote unquote, getting bulky, what they're fearing is gaining lots of weight and lots of muscle mass, right, and adding to their frame. And the only, scientifically possible way to add to your frame, to add weight and add muscle, is if you are in a nutritional caloric surplus, right? So that essentially means that you are taking in more calories on average than you are expending, right? Over, not just in one day, but over weeks, months, right? Over a big period of time. And the thing with protein powder, and same with food, but let's talk about protein powder, is as long as you keep your calories, at maintenance or in a deficit, you're going to maintain or lose body weight, right? You're not going to gain weight. And you're certainly not going to just get crazy bulky out of nowhere if you are within normal ranges of calories. So that is reason number 2 why you should not fear protein powder, because as long as you're generally keeping your weight in a place that you want it to be, you're not going to all of a sudden add a ton of muscle, right? It's not going to happen out of nowhere. So that's reason number 2, right? The calories and the protein are what contribute to your weight and muscle mass changing. Okay, reason number 3 is that protein powder is not only something you shouldn't be scared of, it's actually a really, really wonderful thing. And same with really lean protein foods, right? The calorie to protein ratio is fantastic. So what does that mean, the calorie protein ratio? It's essentially for X amount of calories that you consume, how much protein you're getting. So as often as you can, right? If you want to gain strength, if you want to lose body fat, if you want to look better, if you want to lift heavier, if you want to be in better shape, if you want to have stronger bones, all of these things, you want more protein, right? And you want a better protein ratio for the calories you're taking in, right? Because it's just more efficient. Okay? So certain foods, let's say, for example, right? And I don't want to go in too much of a tangent away from protein powder, but let's use this example. If you get a lean piece of chicken, right? Super lean. For the amount of calories that you're going to eat, you're going to get a really high amount of protein, which is wonderful. Whereas if you take that same amount of chicken and you deep fry it, right? You're going to get essentially the same amount of protein that you would before, but way more calories from the oil and all the other, crap that's added. So it's not very efficient because in order to get your protein needs, you're going to have to take so many calories and you're just going to, blow your goals and just feel not so great. So what you want is a great protein to calorie ratio as best as you can. And protein powder, right, while a supplement and not a regular food, it has a great ratio. Like generally a protein powder, the one that I use, if I remember correctly, it's about 110 or 120 calories per serving and about 25 grams of protein, which is fantastic, right? I mean, that's better than a piece of chicken generally, but it's a supplement. But it's also really convenient and it is, healthy in moderation. So that is reason number 3, is that the calorie to protein ratio is fantastic. So not only is protein powder not going to just bulk you up out of nowhere, but it's actually going to help if your goal is fat loss because it's going to keep your calories low while getting your protein needs to keep your body looking aesthetic and strong and performing that same way. All right. Reason number 4 out of 5 why you shouldn't fear protein. This is a very interesting and important one that you might not know, all right, as it relates to men and women. So testosterone, right? If you don't know, testosterone is a hormone in our bodies. Both men and women have testosterone, and both men and women need testosterone, but it is very, very much more prevalent in men, right? Not women. It's much heavier in men on average. And testosterone, right, is a hormone that essentially contributes to you gaining a lot of muscle, right, if everything else is in check with your training or your nutrition. That is why, on average, men have a lot more muscle mass than women. And on average, men are a lot stronger physically than women. Again, not all the time, but on average, just biologically, because we have this much higher level of testosterone and it changes our bodies and it allows us to grow more muscle and bulk up. So where am I getting at? All right. Again, I don't want to get too into the weeds of numbers and science and everything here, but I think it will be helpful to hear this. So there is a unit of measurement for measuring testosterone, right? Which, again, I'm not going to be able to do. No one really is going to be able to do it. But if you go to your doctor, a proper doctor, you can get this stuff tested, right? So the unit of measurement is called nanograms over deciliters, right? That's essentially the unit. And then you get a number attached to it. So like how many nanograms over deciliters of testosterone do you have in your body? And there's an average range, right? Which is kind of a healthy range, right? There's like a minimum and then there's a high end, but there's a range which you should be in to be healthy for your gender. And here's the interesting thing, right? If you remember what I said earlier, testosterone contributes to bulk and to muscle. So if someone has a lot more testosterone, they're much more likely to be able to get bulky and to gain muscle. On average, this stat might blow your mind if you're not familiar with this. On average, men have 10 to 20 times the amount of testosterone in their bodies than women. All right? Not 10% more or twice as much, but 10 to 20 times as much. That's insane. All right? That's a lot. That's a huge, huge, huge difference. Okay? So that average, right? Again, depending on who you ask, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, right? But depending on the research that I've done and the averages among many, many sources, on average, the kind of broad but minimum and maximum range that men should be in is about 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone, right? Between 300 and 1,000. Women, between 15 and 70, right? So on the very high end, like the high amount of testosterone for women that they should be within is 70. Men, it's 1,000, right? These numbers are staggeringly different. So the point is, if you are a woman and you are scared ever of just getting crazy bulk in a shorter period of time, let alone just from some protein powder, I promise you it's not going to happen. Men spend years trying to bulk up and gain muscle, and it's really freaking hard. So you better believe if you're a woman and you have 10 to 20 times less testosterone in your body, it's going to be exponentially less likely that you're just going to see a massive amount of bulk. All right? So do not fear protein powder for that because it's not going to make you do that. Most of the time, if a woman thinks that they're just getting too bulky like overnight or in a week, it's just mental, right? It's just a version of body dysmorphia. It happens to a lot of people. And if you start to feel your muscles working and getting strong, then you start to feel like you're getting huge and bulky. But I promise you, that's not actually changing much at all. So you should be trying to gain muscle, because remember, you're not going to gain a massive amount of muscle overnight, let alone in years, a decade. I mean, it takes tremendous time and work and being dialed in. So please try to gain as much muscle as you possibly can as a woman. If that makes you cringe and say, oh, I don't want to do that, I don't want to gain as much as I can, trust me, you do, because as much as you can is probably not going to be a massive amount, and it's going to make you look extremely good, right? Extremely aesthetic. It's going to make your body shape even better. And most importantly, more muscle means stronger bodies for the rest of your life, right? The more muscle you have now, the more muscle you'll have as you get older and into your elderly years, which means you will be far ahead of the rest of the people out there in that age group, and you'll be much less likely to fall, to hurt yourself, to break bones, to do all these kinds of things. So it's like a savings account, right? The more muscle you put in now, let's call it a retirement account, right? More instead of just a savings account, because we're talking about for the future, like a retirement account. The more you put in now, it's like compounding interest in a Roth IRA, right? Like the more you put in now in your younger years, the more you'll save later on, and it's going to compound in a sense, and you're going to be so far ahead of other people who didn't do that early. So build muscle, men and women, as much as you can, gain strength, and you'll be good. All right, that was a long one, but I want to finish off with number 5. So reason number 5, final reason why you should not be afraid of protein powder out of fear of getting bulky, is that no one specific food or meal or instance is going to change your body, right? In a micro degree, yes, but that's like extremely small, right? So having a protein shake doesn't make you bulky. Having 100 protein shakes doesn't make you bulky over if you do that, periodically. Again, this stuff takes years to gain like real muscle, like big differences, even decades, honestly, but years, not even months, like a bunch of months. If you're a complete beginner, maybe yes, but real bulk and muscle might come on, much less so if you're a woman, but still can, but might in months, but years. It takes a long time. So have the protein shake, especially a delicious one with stuff that you like. I like peanut butter and, fruit, bananas, strawberries sometimes. Ice, that's something new that I've added to protein shakes. But anyways, this is a long episode. So those are 5, I hope, very convincing reasons why you should not ever fear having protein powder out of the sense of getting bulky. And more specifically, more importantly, why you should never fear eating protein in general out of getting bulky. It is a necessity for a strong and healthy and awesome body. Please, women, eat protein like it's your job. Lift weights like it's your job, but in a fun way, in a way that makes your life better, not more stressful, just better. And gain muscle. Please try to gain muscle, even if you want to lose fat, right? You can still do both in a bigger period of time. So build that muscle. It's going to help the way you look. It's going to help the way you feel, and you can lose the fat if that's a goal of yours. But eat that protein. Protein powder is very convenient, but either way, get it in. All right, thanks for listening, and have a wonderful day. Also, if you have any questions, email me, harris@coachedbyharris.com, or send me a message on Instagram @coachedbyharris. Any questions, I'm super willing to have and happy to help. Let me know.